Good afternoon, gamers! Jaraoh back. More VOD reviews. Kind of. Alright, so here's the situation. What we're going to do today is, in less the vein of a VOD review, this is going to be more of a commentary. And the reason this commentary for this practice match is relevant is because this is two of my buddies, but also now teammates, as we have kind of formed a competitive Riftbound team that we are trying to, I think professionally is the wrong terminology to use, but take quite seriously so that we can start looking to stack some results at some of these upcoming national tournaments that we've got. We've got the 10K in Vegas, which will be closer to my neck of the woods. And then we, of course, have the Houston Open. So we are going to try and just get a group of our, buddies to, get a little sweaty, get into the trenches, and try to see what kind of magic we can pull off and see if we can, attach any sponsorships to that or kind of see what the future holds. But basically, everybody is just very excited about the new game, particularly excited about the play style of the game. The gameplay is just very good. And kind of looking for a new way to spread our wings in that sense. So this is going to be me doing commentary over a live playtesting session with two of my teammates and decks that we think are pretty good. As you'll see, one of them is Yi. That's not going to be a surprise to anybody that's been following along, right? Yi is a fantastic archetype. I think most people have concluded that the mid-range concoction is quite significantly better. And if you want to be an Aurora deck, you should kind of lean into other shells. That makes sense to me. And like I said, not particularly uncommon. But I do not think Viktor is getting that much competitive attention. I think at the beginning of the game's release in China, it was maybe like the third or fourth most played deck. But I think that it's basically been replaced since that in recent times, especially with the release of the game in the West. I do not think Viktor is a deck that has been performing particularly well, at least the current modifications of it. And this is a version that my buddy Koko has kind of deemed his pet deck and put some, very strong effort into. And we, as a group, think that it's pretty powerful and in a direction better suited for the meta, right? So we're going to go ahead and get into it. It might be a little harder for me to go over plays as consistently with, not having the same access to their hand. So like I said, work with me on that. And, the machinations of it all might end up being a little bit different than what my normal VOD review play style is, where we have access to full information in one player's hand. But yep, this looks like pretty straightforward, right? Yi player, Min win in this case, starting off with Poro, and then the Viktor player on the draw, which is, I think, not a bad place for them to be. We're going to start Hawk into Recruits, and then put Rookie on Poro. Poro presumably going to go to God-willow, I would assume. Yep, I think that makes a ton of sense. And go ahead and do a quick pause there, as has become trademark for me and this channel. So, a couple quick things to go over that we kind of skimmed through. I do not think Scout is an uncommon card to see in Viktor, but I want to hint on kind of why for a minute. So, Viktor is a deck that, in general, because of its legend ability, you always can find ways to spend extra resources, extra mana for, magic context, my magic players. So this is a deck that just benefits more from putting more resources into play than most other yellow decks, right? As you'll see later on, potentially, I haven't watched these games, so I don't know if this comes up, but I obviously know the list preemptively. We lean in more to the baited hook, scheme of things, and while sacrificing or targeting a 1-power unit with those kind of effects isn't generally wildly impressive, obviously with WarCamp, you can get 3s that way, which 3s tend to be much more of a sweet spot with the baited hook engine online. But Scout ends up being a pretty strong play for Viktor. Sometimes you'll see them either just try to play more powerful 2s, like Ravenbloom Student, or sometimes they'll try to play Sentry. And I think Sentry and Hawk are mostly interchangeable in this archetype, but I do think that Hawk gets some win outs in some spots on average, where because you have enough card draw from other sources, usually. Again, depending on build, right? And then of course Yi always looking to set up value with its legend ability, right? Most Yi mid-range decks are playing all of the hold battlefields, right? They're leaning very heavily into God-willow and Star-Tip Peak, and the logic there is your opponent has to spend so many resources usually, especially in the early game, to retake a battlefield from you, at least especially in combat, that you're almost always going to get early holds, and getting those early holds to mean more for you to follow through your long-term game plan is obviously insane value. So let's go ahead and fire it back up. And yeah, I mean, just right here you see the Poro, it's buffed, right? So it's a 3. And then if we attack into it, it's shield plus Yi buff, right? So that Poro is a 2-cost, 6 might when it's defending right now. So that's obviously, like, outrageously outstatted. Let's see what Koko's lining up. We're for sure going to be looking to take over TrifWarCamp in some fashion. We might just take over with one, but I would assume we want to put multiple things there, just so the pit rookie doesn't get to eat it for free. The last thing you want to have happen against the Yi deck is let them have 2 units, have 1 unit on each battlefield, because it makes it so easy for them to just ramp up victory points so quickly in that scenario. If they just get to sit on all of their untapped resources, untapped energy, and just spend the entire turn defending their units that are already outrageously large for their cost, ends up being really hard to take over. So we can't really see Koko's hand at all, but we know worst case scenario, we have access to Viktor, even though that's not really something that we want to do. And I think this play is great. I mean, it always feels bad to have to Hidden Blades. I mean, an opponent's unit, let alone a 2-cost. But this is exactly kind of what I was talking about, is you can't actually realistically fight Yi 1 unit at a time. They'll just bury you in card advantage because they create so much fabricated card advantage from the legend ability, right? Alright. So Viktor is going to double conquer. We're going to go up to 2. But we're going to let the pit rookie take over, so I don't admittedly love that at the moment. I almost wonder if there was any merit into reinforcing those and making Min, the Yi player, have to play a spell there to take over. Because he very well might have one. But that I could have maybe imagined a world where that was worth it, right? Just put like the Glory Seeker on one of them, the other recruit on the TrifWarCamp or something. And then at least then the Yi player has to play a spell. As opposed to now where it's like maybe they could just spend their 6 energy on another gigantic unit. It looks like that is not what's happening, of course, but always something to consider. I usually try to play the game against Yi in a way where if I can deny them any conquer at all or make it very difficult for them to conquer, I usually try to do that. All right, very smart and I think not immediately obvious. I guess it is mostly obvious play by Min. Definitely very good to go and keep continuously fighting over God-willow, with the logic being, like, you want to represent your hold, so it's going to force the action, right? The Viktor player pretty much is always going to have to try and make some kind of play into it, because you don't want to let the Yi player just get that free card draw. And then, obviously, the free victory point as well. Alright, so Viktor gets the 3rd point for holding on TrifWarCamp, and now we are looking at this pit rookie that is currently a 4, while it will be defending alone. The Yi player has left up 2, so even without the hourglass represented, we would want to play around things like double on guard if possible, or at least bare minimum a discipline. We have 4 represented on our base, so we could at least bare minimum represent a trade. For the hourglass, of course. It looks like Koko's got a nice little stack of cards there. It looks like he's got maybe 3 or 4 of those yellow-sleeved cards. We're preemptively making a Viktor token. What does that mean? That kind of makes me think Cole is happening. It's, of course, only going to trade for the keeper that's in base, but that is going to at least proc the hourglass, which is nice. Which is, I think, what we're doing here. Oh, we're reinforcing with Evangel. Okay. So we are ahead on points. So technically, this is a play that we're allowed to make. And if we didn't have any other options, then you do what you got to do. Again, I don't have access to Koko's hand, really. But I definitely don't love the idea of letting them draw the card off of God-willow, but you obviously don't always have that option. And it looks like he's wanting to go even bigger. I mean, Min is already untapped his resources, readied his resources, and drawn his card, but it looks like maybe Koko's talking through the permutations of wanting to move his Glory Seeker in to War Camp as well to just make it harder to conquer, which I think is actually a pretty good play. I don't think Min has 8 resources yet, so as long as... Yeah, because if you have 8, you do not want to open this up to a White Flame Protector. But if he's on 7 or less, I think this play makes a lot of sense, because we're representing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 might on War Camp at the moment. And, yeah, it looks like it's only 7 resources. So on board, Yi would be 6, 7, plus the Keeper would be 8, 9, 10. So we would win that combat currently. Very interesting. And with us, we're tied on points at the moment, but we would be getting our hold point first. So at the moment, it's looking not that bad for us. Though the Yi players, I think, overall pretty happy with this. Because eventually, I think they're going to be able to set up enough large unit combats to be able to take over War Camp, on average. And it looks like we are disciplining... Interesting that we're disciplining Pit Rookie there. I feel like it doesn't actually matter with only 1 resource up from Koko, but you should probably just target the unit that's in your battlefield in case something changes. Oh, this is what we're doing. All right, I should have known. So now our Pit Rookie, while defending, will be a 6, so we'll win this exchange, which is excellent. Should have known Min had something up his sleeve. So many units on the Viktor side already, though. That Evangel looking very, very strong. Keeper still doesn't have a good exchange here, but Min's hand looks like he has just infinite gas. Right, we've drawn off the God-willow. So we're pulling back Pit Rookie. And what's the logic there? Very interesting. That means, are we moving Keeper up? Not sure I immediately understand, but Min knows what he's doing. We're about to find out. So we're ready. Oh, because we've already given... Very nice. So we've already buffed the Pit Rookie for this turn. So it still has the discipline power. So it's still a +4 or a +2, because obviously the Yi ability is only while defending, so it doesn't keep that. So Pit Rookie could attack as a 4, a 5 on War Camp. And an on guard would make it a 7 versus a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I think I saw an on guard, right? So this is going to be pretty good if it works. And I don't really see it not working. I guess you end up trading and having to lose your hourglass if the Viktor player has a stupefy here. Is the scare? But yeah, we're currently 5 versus... Oh, and he's just letting it trade. Interesting. But we have an unguard in our hand, which means I guess he's trying to protect the Keeper. That's very interesting. I would have been pretty incentivized to use the unguard there, but I think I understand what he's doing. I mean, sending the signal there, I think, is pretty strong that you don't have unguard. So maybe we can get Koko to make an attack that kind of falls prey to the Unguard into this keeper, but I think we have so many extra units to spare that maybe that's not wildly likely anyways. We're really just looking to see which heavy hitters come to play now. Like I said, the Viktor player, Koko, up in tempo at the moment with being able to represent all of these holds. I don't think we have a lot of interest in playing our chosen Viktor on this board just because we have so many tokens. We wouldn't really get value out of it. I like this play. Manufacturer on WarCamp, so we're representing 7 might there. And there's the baited hook. We're going to baited hook the Manufacturer and look for a 3. Oh, yeah. Baited hook online, baby. And then we're probably not attacking God-willow again, right? We're probably just letting him get the point and draw the card again. Because I think sending 4 tokens into that is pretty suspicious. Very nice. Getting the matron, we get a 4 because the Manufacturer, of course, had 3 might while it was at WarCamp. Probably bringing back... We can't bring back Evangel. It's probably just bringing back Manufacturer and making another token, yeah? Very heads-up play by Koko, I think, as well. I don't think you want to put everything on WarCamp, just because unless you're putting a lot of might onto WarCamp, like a lot of might, you really don't want to get got by White Flame Protector. It's just, on average, one of the best cards that Yi has access to when they're trying to push their lead. I wonder what they're talking about here. Maybe they're just discussing about what's right to bring back. Because you can obviously put the matron into play. I think they're talking about where the matron should go. And I think base is the right answer. The only way base would not be the right... Okay, so what is this? This is 6, 8, 11... So I kind of think if you... Yeah, well, then this should also go to the battlefield, I think. Right? I think we're only representing 11 on WarCamp right now. I think 11's a scary number because that makes White Flame Protector plus Unguard really problem. Yes, this is the right play. This is for sure the right play, I think. No surprise that Koko found it. I think Yi doesn't answer this board very well. I think it's very, very hard for Yi to answer this board. We've identified that this is going to be our win con, and we're going to let the Yi draw 2 cards a turn in order to do it, which I think that's valid. I think that's an okay thing to do. I mean, I almost wonder if there's any even reason to leave the those extra 2 in base, honestly. Very interesting. Those 2 recruits that are over there by the sprites, those are not part of the battlefield, I don't believe. But we're representing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So that's 14, plus 5 is 19, plus 3 is 22. So we're representing 22 might on WarCamp at the moment. And yeah, I think Koko's plan is just very strongly to hold for 4 more turns. Adding up the totals, making sure they get the right number. I hope that I did the same. I'm pretty sure 22 is accurate. I see 7 recruits, so that's 14. Plus 5 is 19, plus 3 is 22. I think, again, the scary cards, and they're not even particularly scary on this turn. They're just scary cards in general are Protectors and Predators. Yep, there's Protector, and I think Min is just going to try and churn through some of this, but... So I think he pointed to First Mate, so we're going to attack as an 11, and just probably try to remove, like, some stuff. Just get some stuff off the board. I do think that you want to prioritize the real units, with the logic being you want to get rid of the real units on the Viktor side before the Viktor commander comes into play. And they're also the most powerful to baited hook away to keep going up the chain, right? If you can force the baited hook on a war-camped recruit, you force it to where they're only allowed to get 3 might units, which is still, you know, still pretty large range of units that are good that they can find in that spot, but I think it's still better to do that than not. Yep, looks like Min came to the same conclusion. Pulls back his keeper, which I think is right, so you at least guarantee that the protector is always going to hold God-willow, because I think we're never sending in 10 combat to that. Literally never. So yeah, the protector will basically be on God-willow for the rest of the game, I imagine. Yep. I don't think pit rookie going in makes sense. You're only trading with 1 recruit. You should just wait, try and line it up a little differently. All right, we hold up to 5. He did not ding the dice yet, but we are for sure up to 5 here. Yep, got it now. All of our units are, of course, also ready, though I don't think that's wildly relevant. Yeah, I'm interested to know what else is in Koko's hand, because we haven't played any of our reactive cards, right? We've played 1 Hidden Blade, we've played 0 Stupefy, we've played 0 removal spells, really, aside from the 1 Blades. No Coals, none of that, so... Yep. Captain, and then we should just bait it, hook the captain away. I assume. Yep. So we'll get 2 recruits for that, and then we'll get a recruit when the captain is destroyed as well. Boom. Yep. And then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're still representing 16 might on WarCamp at the moment. And we get to find a 5 or more off of this baited hook. Because we played the Vanguard Captain on WarCamp, so it was a 4 when we procced it down. And it's another matron for another captain. So yeah, now we are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 18, 20, 22, plus 4, 26, plus 5, 31 might sitting on WarCamp at the moment. Wild. Yeah, I think that's just too much for the Yi deck to interact with. I think it's been a very good line by Koko. And, again, to his credit, I don't think a lot of people would have taken this line necessarily. I think signing yourself up to just always let the Yi player draw 2 cards every turn is really terrifying. Like, I didn't even like it at first either. But after seeing it in action, it's actually just, I think, kind of an impenetrable plan. Like, what can the Yi deck even do about this? If the Yi deck just put all of their cards from their library into their hand right now and had access to everything, I'm not sure that you could actually concoct a set of cards that make sense to be able to win this game. So really good foresight by Koko, in my opinion. Second protector, buffing in, so we're 4, 5, 6, 14. So we're just trying to churn through some of the stuff. This time I think it's the opposite. This time, now that the Viktor is in play, I think we should not target the real units. But I also don't think it actually matters that much. I think the Viktor player, Koko's effectively got the hard lock on here now. One, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 18 might. Hourglass there I don't think makes a ton of sense, because I think you should know that we're probably never trying to pick a fight on God-willow. But, oh yeah. Well, I think the game was already over, but the game is especially over now. We're going to reveal the Hourglass, we're going to go up to 7, and this game's over. This game is a wrap. We'll throw one of our tokens in to get our 7th point and let them retake with the Protector attack, of course, but then there's no way for them to stop us from getting the hold point next turn. Yep. Hourglass in, bank the Protector back to the base, throw Recruit in to get point number 7. Bink. Very well played, Koko. Very well played. Yep, and I'm pretty sure this is just the full hard lock. Basically, in order for the Yi player to win this game, you'd have to find a way to take over WarCamp, which I think is not possible, and then have to charm, you have your last part of the sequence be charm the Recruit on God-willow over to the Protector and remove it that way, so you deny the hold point. Because you obviously can't, yeah. And Min sees the writing on the wall, doesn't even really matter what the baited hook gets. I think that we could have had 7 less units on that board, and we're still not getting through the tokens on WarCamp. Very nice. Very, very nice. Alright, let's try and churn through this a little bit faster. This and gonna end up looking like a much longer video than what my normal take is, especially if it ends up being a 3-game set. Approximately 30 minutes in almost at 1 game. But that's just going to happen when it's in person as well. The machinations and, the mechanics, if you will, of going through game actions in person just take longer. Looks like we have Zon Warrens versus Lair. Lair ends up being... I think Lair is best in MF, of course, because you can just give your units ganking and circumvent the weakness that way. But I think it ends up being pretty good in Yi as well. Your Yi Legend, your Commander Yi that you play has ganking. And Zon Warren's a little surprised to see that out of Viktor, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, Zon Warren's is just generically good, right? So you might be a little afraid that you're helping your opponent more than you in some cases, but it's a very leveled out battlefield in that sense. You're never going to be... It's never going to be a drawback to you necessarily. All right, so Yi player. Min, once again on the play, starting with the Poro. Koko running it back. Scout into Recruit from the Viktor ability. Find your center, all right. And yeah, I think you definitely should fight over Zon Warrens first. That makes sense. And we proc the Zon Warrens. We discard the Kiana, draw a card, and we are at 1. And this is the difficult part of the game for Viktor. The difficult part is getting the initial takeovers, because the Yi Legend ability is so strong. If you can get to the stage of the game where you're trying to hold, I think you're generally much better off. Floating 1 and playing Seal makes me think we're probably probably have Legion. I think we tapped 1 too many, right? Oh, I think we should have 1 untapped. I think our man Koko tapped one too many energy there, right? Because you can float the 1 yellow. And then 2 plus the hero ability. Yeah, I think we exhausted 1 too many, but that's quite all right. I also wonder if there's any world where we wanted the Hawk in on Vile Maw Lair instead of the Recruit. That way, just if they did have a way to threaten taking it over, that's the unit that dies. Maybe that's mostly irrelevant, but I think threatening the extra resource is valuable. Yep, there's the buff on the Kiana. And the Yi player is still representing 1 mana, so you want to, play around Defy or Unguard in this scenario if you have the ability to. Representing, so the Poro would be a 5, and then you would need to be able to get 7 if you wanted to fight through an unguard, which we can do. So then it's just a question of, is that what we want to do in the face of a Kiana, which would then just be able to clean up combat anyways? I suspect we're probably just going to let the Yi player get a hold point here. I don't think there's much fear yet. I wouldn't really be that surprised if we started loading up Maw again, kind of like we did last game. Of course, the main problem there then is the Yi is now ahead on victory point tempo this time. So you would need to still be able to build up a board that could contest Zon at some point if you decided to go that route. You also are pretty scared that the Yi player is going into their 8 energy turn. So like a protector just absolutely wrecks you if you try to send everything into Vile Maw, it looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty horrifying. I guess you could sit on Hidden Blades, maybe, but then, like, what, you're Hidden Bladesing the Kiana, which is the dream. You're super happy to pay Deflect to do that, but, I mean, what if they White Flame Protector the Pit Rookie? Then you're Hidden Bladesing a Pit Rookie, and then the Kiana doesn't even have to commit yet. You give a hold point. Yeah, that seems like a nightmare scenario. So I really wonder what cards are in the hand here. Looks like we're just putting the Viktor into play and making another recruit. Okay. That's reasonably tough. That means that the Kiana is going to run over Vile Maw Lair pretty easily. Probably just draw a card. I don't think putting a 9th resource into play is very valuable. You haven't been forced to play any of your other cards that are heavy on recycling yet up to this point. 3, 6, 8. Two, 5, 7. Yeah, we're at 8 because we've only recycled for the Kiana so far. That's probably a Clockwork Keeper. Yep, looks like it is a Clockwork Keeper. One of my favorite 2-drops. I think it's really important for deck building to find 2-cost units that mitigate the downside of how bad they are when you draw them late in the game. And I think a lot of people are finding that as well. You want your 2-cost units to be relevant on turns, 5, 6, 7, etc. I think it's one of the reasons we're seeing downswings and things like Pouty Poro, for example, where the deflect on your 2-cost unit is just like basically not real text most of the time. Alright, so we're Pit Rookieing, buffing the other Pit Rookie. And then we're sending Kiana into Vile Maw, going up to 4, presumably drawing a card. He is channeling the resource. Interesting. Yeah, I think the Yi player is very far ahead here. It's very important, I think, not necessarily just against Viktor, I think against most yellow decks, but definitely most importantly against Viktor, is you want to leave low-impact units on your bench as fodder for Cold a Week. It's very important. That's one of their best tools to, like, create really large, like, tempo gaps, where if they ever get to kill a big creature, a big unit, with Cole, I think they're very big favorites to win those games most of the time. All right. What is Koko thinking about? Really, really needs like a grand stratagem or something to take over. Really, really needs like a grand stratagem. That would be the card. And even then, even if you have that card, it's like you can't really do a great job of defending. What are we lining up? Looks like we're lining up an attack of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to the Poro. I don't love putting the Viktor at risk, but you do what you gotta do. Yeah, I definitely don't love putting the Viktor at risk. I wonder if there was a way for us to do this without putting Viktor at risk. I really don't love that. Yep. Min, of course, decides to remove the recruit and the Viktor, so no Death Knell procs or Viktor procs happen. No Viktor procs would happen anyways, because the Viktor died. It wouldn't have seen them, even if we did choose to destroy one of the real units. We Conquers on, discard Glory Seeker for another card. It's going to be tough. We very clearly do not have Stratagem, because we would have played that beforehand. What do we got lined up? What do we got lined up? I feel like it'd be just so hard for the Viktor player to get back into this game. Like, I almost feel like it would have to require some, like, absolute, like, disgusting baited hook interactions. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Koko, Koko, Koko. Looks like he's running some numbers. Recycle 1, float 1 for second seal into Matron. Matron makes sense. We're, of course, picking up Glory Seeker. It's our only target. That does a good job of adding power to the board, but I'm just not sure we actually have a real plan for how we're going to retake over this board. I feel like we're getting pretty desperate because the E player, Min, is for sure going to reconquer Zon this turn. I think there's basically no world where you imagine you're safe on Zon. We did add a lot of might to the board this turn. We just added, what, 10, 11 extra might to the board? I'm still pretty scared, though, for the Viktor player. I think we're getting to the stage of the game where he's just very unlikely to be able to lose. I don't know if this is a matchup where you would bring in something like Mystic Reversal, but Defy is, like, already going to be pretty good. Basically, as long as you have an answer to a potential stratagem, I think you're safe. And it's also not even clear to me that one stratagem is enough. As long as you don't let the Viktor player get to 6 points and win the game in one swoop, I think you can pretty much always reconquer as the E player. As long as you do some modicum of holding Predators and Protectors back. Yep, we're just going to get the Fey Folk in there. The eggplant baby. And I don't see any reason for anything else to go over to Zanya. 6 versus 4. We get the resource from the scouts. Up to 6. Yeah, I think this game is a wrap. Like, even if we have stratagem and lost no units, how do you set up the board in a way where the E player doesn't get to... Why did we... Oh, we're discard because of... Okay, I thought we were playing Finder Center for a minute, but we are not. We discarded it to Zon, of course. Yeah, and then as long as in Min's hand is one Predator or one Protector, I really don't see how we, as the Viktor player, close this game out. On board, no tricks is Kiana with the buff is a 7. And the Fey Folk is an 8. So we, in theory, it looks like we're shuffling maybe 3 or 4 cards. We've only got 10 resources, which means we can't even represent double stratagem. And we're a point away from double stratagem even mattering, right? Because we would need to be at 4 to be able to stratagem up to 6, and then stratagem on defense to double hold, right? So I do think double stratagem is like a real plan, but we're a victory point away from that even being good enough. And even in that scenario, the E player could decide to bring in Mystic Reversal, right? Or Wind Wall based on their build. We like Mystic Reversal, though. Yep. Do what you got to do. Churn through. Getting the 4th victory point is relevant. I mean, if the E player just for some reason just has a handful of no gas, which we can see Min fading through the hand a little bit, he does not have all no gas. He's, in fact, got a White Flame Protector that is going to be pretty filthy, as the card generally is. Koko trying to run some numbers on if Reinforcing does anything, most likely, because there's clearly no world where we're ever going into the Kiana. Yeah, I'm hard-pressed to even find what the line would be, right? Because it's not Cole. Cole doesn't do anything. Stratagem, I would suspect we don't have Stratagem the way that we've played this. Hidden Blades, pay for deflect and cost. That's just going to get defied. That's not a bad try. I mean, with no Hourglass, you do what you got to do. And then we're just going for a big hold-ons on. That, I think, tells me... that the game is over. Because, to me, if you're putting all your units on Zaun, that tells me that you don't have Stratagem. And I don't think you can win this game without Stratagem. Because if you had Stratagem, you would want more units in your base, right? To just make sure that conquering next turn was as easy as possible. As it stands right now, Min is going to almost assuredly play a White Flame Protector. And I doubt we have a second Hidden Blades, because I think we would have just played it on the Kiana. Which means we're probably just getting run over. I don't think there's a trick that we could have here that makes sense. Send 10 in. Send 10 into 6. So we did have Stratagem. That's very interesting. I wouldn't immediately think that that was the way you would want to play Stratagem. It's certainly not the way you would play Stratagem if you had 2, because I think it would be too important to set up the double conquer. 10. So he only gets to kill 1 unit, so he's going to go for the real unit, which makes sense. The Glory Seeker. And then presumably no other buffs this turn. And then we're presumably going to be able to hold up to 5. And then even if we have another Stratagem, go to 6. And then lose the game, presumably, to Yi on their next turn. As long as they can do literally kind of anything. But I think the way we've played it, I don't think it is actually reasonable for us to have a second Stratagem here. The dream scenario here would be Hidden Blades, the Kiana, and have drawn the second. Yeah, he's scooping it up. So the way to win that game would have actually been if we had drawn second Hidden Blades and second Stratagem. Then we can Hidden Blades the Kiana, sit on Stratagem, and double hold, because we would conquer Vile, go from 5 to 6, and then double hold. But it still would have required double Stratagem, double Hidden Blades. So it looks like there is going to be a game 3. Looks like they're running through some stuff. I've got it muted, so I can't hear quite what they're talking about. But we'll go ahead and set up for the next map. Boom. All right. Should be getting closer. Should be getting closer. Here we go. All right. Obelisk versus Arena's Greatest. So, what happened here? Koko lost and is choosing to go second. Very interesting. I actually don't think I love that. I definitely would love to chat with them about this and kind of figure out what he was thinking. I think early tempo against Yi is actually too important. I think if you can put 2 might on the board and make it hard for them to get that first conquer for the defending point, I actually think that's really valuable. Looks like they're having some emphatic conversation. Of course, it's both players are at 1. It looks like they haven't caught it yet. Unless that's Reckoner's Arena, but I think that's Arena's Greatest. Yep. So 2, right? Yep. Yeah, very tough. I would suspect you still want to go first. But I'm interested to see how it plays out. We are up to 6 resources already. Viktor does utilize those resources very well. What's the dream scenario here? I mean, it would have to be some kind of like baited hook shenanigans, I feel like, right? Just start churning away. Yeah, it feels like it would have to be baited hook is the dream. Chain the Glory Seeker into like a Vanguard Captain or something. But even then, it seems like it's so likely that the Kiana takes over. Kiana's so strong. Seal. 1 floating. Into Evangel. Very nice. And Recruit. Perfect. Not a bad turn. Not a bad turn. You are creating the problematic situation of now that you're tapped out, there's no tricks. You know that the Kiana is just going to conquer Arena's Greatest, and Yi is exactly where they want to be, which is holding both units with a bunch of ready resources. That is the absolute dream scenario for Yi. The absolute dream scenario. Ooh, looks like we've got a Sabotage out of the sideboard. A particularly important card, I think, against Viktor, just because you don't really have any other good ways to interact with Stratagem. And I think this is very likely better than, like, having a Reversal or some shit in your deck. So, I like this. I like this plan by Min a lot. Resource plus draw. Presumably we're sabotaging and sitting on 2 mana. Yep. I think that makes a lot of sense. Oh, wow. And our hand was very good, too. We had Decree plus Cole plus Progress Day. Wow. Our hand was so good. Getting sabotaged here is brutal. I think if you're Min, you just have to take, as the E player, I think you have to take the Decree. I think the Decree is just the card that you're most afraid of. It's like a little annoying that you're gonna lose both your units this turn, I think, to the Cole. Unless you have another 2-drop to play to your base, which it looks like we do not. So yeah, you just really want to be able to defend this Poro. I mean, the Poro is currently a 5 in combat right now while we're defending. So you're just like praying that your opponent plays like around Discipline to go up to 7 and that you have like double on guard or something. Because you don't want to Cole first as the Viktor player, right? You want to be able to Cole the Kiana after the fact. We're representing 7. So yeah, I mean, you probably just send everything into the 5 Poro, right? I don't see why you would do anything else. Yeah, this play looks, I mean, great to me. It's a little unfortunate, again, because the E player has perfect information. So it's kind of like a bluff catcher. But you do what you got to do. It's your only play as the Viktor player. So you just jam and hope for the best. 7 versus 5 at the moment. Looks like that hand wave was probably a pass focus angle to me, pass priority. And then see what Min Win wants to do. He's choosing to deal his 5 to the Evangel, which I do think makes sense, even though it feels bad to proc the Death Knell. You know that you're going to have to do it eventually, right? I mean, you're going to have to fight through these tokens one way or another. So now you... It depends what else we drew, because our hand is obviously Progress Day plus Cole. I mean, it might be possible Progress Day is 6 and 1, right? 6 and a blue. I mean, listen, if there was no spell played in combat, it might be right to Progress Day here, just because you know it's going to resolve. If you didn't draw another relevant card, and you're only choosing between Cole and Progress Day, probably is right to play the Progress Day and let the Yi player get the hold point. Yeah, I like this play because with only 2 energy up, it can't get countered, right? And I think that's very important. Really good play by Koko. I think giving the Yi player a window to get really good value out of a Defy, you do it if you have to, but if you have other options, I think it makes a lot of sense to tax that resource. Really, really well played by Koko. And again, we don't even know what his draw for the turn there was, right? We don't know what that third card was. We knew from the Sabotage reveal that we had Progress Day and Cole, and then we drew a third card there for the turn. 7 and an orange. This looks like this is probably Yi. Yep, sitting on 1 for the Defy again. All right, so you know that the Yi player has Defy here. There's just no world where they don't have Defy. So, I mean, now we're pretty much on a stratagem angle. We're looking for stratagem. 1 floating. If we had stratagem here, that would be so insane. If we don't have stratagem, this board that the Yi is accrued is completely massive. Would be really hard for us to fight through. 1 in our pool. 1 in our pool. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are banger cards that we could have? It looks like I think I saw a baited hook in his hand when he was shuffling it closer to the camera. Looks like there's a Hidden Blades there. I might start with Hidden Blades on Yi just because you know that's going to resolve. Oh, we do have stratagem. That's insane. That's insane. That's really good for us. That's really, really good for us. You have to send 2 per. Oh, he's just sending 1. It's 6 versus 6 here, and you don't care about an unguard. Because if he unguards it, then you have the Cole. So this is sending 1 at a time there is totally fine. And then now we're sending 12 into 8. Yep. Go up to 4. And then we conquer arena, go up to 5. And then how do we spend the rest of our turn? Presumably, we want to at least make another recruit. Looks like we have a Matron. It looks like maybe we have a Hidden Blades. I think we have a Hidden Blades. And if that's the case, you do probably sit on Hidden Blades just to fight Protector, even though it's a bit of a tell. Yeah, you probably just have to make a recruit there. It feels bad. I guess the logic to making the recruit is we know that the Yi player has a Defy, like we've put that read on them at this point. So even if they Dead Bloom Predator, they still have enough energy to defy our Hidden Blades after the fact, and then we've just not made an extra recruit. So I think this play is good. I think this is 7 that we're tapping. There's 8. So this could be Predator or Feyfolk accelerated are the common 8-mana lines. I think our boy Min is in a tough spot here. He's got 6 points, but he's going to need very specific cards, I think, to claw back in. This looks like it is Feyfolk. Still very preciously sitting on that Defy energy. We go up to 6. And then we probably, start with Hidden Blades. The problem is that this is just going to resolve because so I actually think as the Yi player, you probably have to let that resolve just because you know that we have Cole already. I think you would rather draw 2 cards. Maybe you care about the recruit, but 7, And then now as the Viktor player, we just want to build a board as much as possible and hope that we have spells. So it looks like they shortcut it a little bit, and they're saying he would have made the token before recruiting. That way he's representing double hold, which is obviously the right play. And now I think that locks up the game, right? Because now in order for the E player to not just lose to the instant double hold, it would be Predator or Feyfolk plus Charm. And then how many resources? We should have... We only recycled 1, so we should have 8 going up to 10 next turn, I believe. Oh, no, we also defied. So we're 7 going up to 9. So if we have another 8 cost plus Charm, then we can't even sit on another defy, which means another removal spell is GG for the Viktor player. And we've only played 2, right? We've only played the 1 Cole and the 1 Hidden Blade, and we played a progress day earlier in the game, so it's very, very likely that the Viktor player wins on this sequence. I was really impressed with Koko's play. I've known Koko for a while, but I haven't watched as much of his gameplay as I has Men's. So I know what to expect when I'm watching Men play. This has been a clinic though from Koko. Koko's kind of, I think, played this match exceptionally well from my point of view. And again, that's obviously not having access to the cards in his hand, but his lines have seemed like they made a ton of sense. The Sabotage, it's just going to take the Hidden Blade. Baited Hook doesn't do anything here. That is, of course, 100% correct. But I think it doesn't matter, right? We do have more resources in play than I thought. I thought we were only going up to 9 resources this turn. Didn't we recycle 1 to Predator and 1 to Charm? And we had 9? I thought we went from 9 to 7 last turn, but it looks like I misunderstood something. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 now. So we could still, and we had 11 because we sabotaged. So I definitely misunderstood our energy count as the Yi player. But yeah, I mean, it's basically going to take, it would take 8 cost to accelerate or take a battlefield, draw a card, and then it would take a Charm. Now that we know the removal's out of the way. I think this discipline means that it's just not there, right? Because it's 8, yeah. Really well played by Koko on the Viktor. And yeah, that was just regular Viktor, too. That was not any, tech or anything crazy, right? That was, I mean, you saw Baited Hook in the first game, and the Baited Hook did pop off a little bit, but it was mostly just traditional Viktor stuff, right? There was nothing out of the ordinary there. Just really good sequencing, really good, setup on your base play so that you always had a way to fight over the Yi battlefields when you needed to, and then just set up a massive hold in game 1, and then really utilize stratagem this game to take a double conquer plus double removal spell turn, and that pretty much shut down the Yi player there. They, I guess Min would have needed an Hourglass probably. If he at any point had an Hourglass to protect one of his large units, that seems like the only way, to my eye, that would have gotten him, in a spot to be able to keep parity in that game. But without it, just that stratagem turn was such a swinger. That was tough. That was awesome to watch. That was really sick. All right, fam, I think we're going to call it there. If you like this kind of gameplay, like I said, more commentary than it was actual VOD review, go ahead and throw me out a like, a comment, and a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. It does help the algorithm out quite a bit. And I will, I will likely be still doing more of my VOD review style gameplay than anything. But if you like this, let me know. I'd be happy to do, some of this more often. This was particularly fun. And it, gives you guys kind of a window into our competitive teams, playtesting procedure as well. Cards that we think are good, cards that we're testing, how other competitive players are sequencing their cards and such. So I think there is a lot to be had value-wise for both sides of it. I think that's pretty exciting. But all right, guys. Yep, that is going to do it. Until next time, peace!